broker of served as the broker of Meadows Realty LLC since 1984. Sherri and her husband Bird have a team of 12 agents that serve the communities of Ocala and the Villages and the 5 surrounding counties in north central Florida. So she has a long list of leadership roles, but I'm going to give some highlights. So she served at her local network as president for Ocala Marion in 1997. And she had the honor of being our 2007 president for Women's Council of Realtors, Florida. She has also served as 2014 president for Florida Realtors. In 2016, she was the NAR vice president for governmental affairs at the National Association of Realtors. And in 2016, Sherri testified before a congressional subcommittee in DC regarding the Veterans Home Loan Program. And she is currently going to be next year the 2026 president for the Florida chapter for the Real Estate Business Institute. Sherri, take us away.
Thank you. Can everybody hear? It's good to see everybody out there. It's been a great year under President Natalie. I want to thank Kara and your team for asking me to speak today. I know you've heard from, for those of you who've been following the series this year, you've heard from Cheryl Keller, Tammy Knoll, Cindy Hayden, Ann DeFries. You've learned how to, step up and keep showing up. You've also learned your why in listening to these amazing, talented ladies. So I hope that I can bring a small pearl of wisdom today out of what I present to you. I don't think we'll go the full hour, and hopefully we can have some questions at the end, because I love those fireside chats where I get to learn from you as much as you do for me. I know we have one of the folks that I served with back when I was on the state leadership team, Susanna Madden. So thank you for being here and supporting us today, Susanna. And I'm going to mention you a couple times today. So again, thanks. I want to thank Denise and her team next year. It was great to be at the leadership retreat for the state. It was an amazing few days up here in Ocala, where I'm from. And I had the opportunity to talk about Dorothy and Oz and how to use your brains and courage and heart to lead in the coming years. So again, a great opportunity to be with you today. When I was Florida Realtor president, we did something to really support the homeless that year. And I had learned that was going to be my initiative from 7 years prior when I was the state women's council president. So everything I've done in my volunteer career has come from my involvement and my beginning within the council. But during that year in 2014, there was a quote that I talked about a lot as I traveled around the state. And it was based on Mark Twain, an author. And those of you on the call who know me today know that I love books. I give away books. I feel like we learn so much from books. And that quote was, "The two most important days of your life is the day you are born and the day you find out why." And through reading a book that somebody recommended at Women's Council on the national level, while I was reading that book on the way to Pensacola to give a talk to the Top Gun event there in Pensacola, it just hit me like a light bulb what my why was and what my purpose was. And it was to be a voice. And at the time, it was to be a voice for the least of these. It was to be a voice for those who didn't feel worthy, to be a voice for those who didn't have confidence, and to help others to find that voice. And to this day, I still follow through with that mantra. So I'm going to talk a little bit today. The theme today is to be bold, be purposeful, be grateful, and be kind. And it all stems from my little lady bees. I am a beekeeper and I have an apiary, which means a lot of beehives all in one area. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit of how that correlates with the council. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Did you know that in just 1 teaspoon of honey, that is the lifetime achievement of around 12 hardworking bees? It's a lot of work in their entire life. That's what they do. To make that tiny golden spoonful, they visit nearly 30,000 flowers and fly more than 800 miles to collect the sweet nectar that becomes the honey that we all consume every day. Now, normally a bee doesn't fly any more than 3 miles from where the hives are, but think of how many trips that is to fly 800 miles. That a worker bee in the hive only lives about 6 weeks in the summertime. Her entire life is spent working and supporting the hive. In the wintertime, a worker bee might live 6 months, and the queen bee is the lucky one. She normally lives 2 to 5 years. Now, there are a few male bees. All the bees in the hive are female. I never knew that before I started my job as beekeeper. There are a few drones flying around. That's the male bees, and their purpose is to procreate life. Each drop of honey is a symbol of teamwork, dedication, and the delicate balance of nature. So the next time you enjoy some honey, remember that those tiny wings made it all possible. So we need to protect the bees, these amazing pollinators, because without bees, life on this planet wouldn't be as it is, and we would also lose much of that sweetness in life. So I want to ask you guys a question. I don't know if your sound is on or not, but does anybody remember what happened from January to March of 2020? A big global event. I don't know if you remember it, but there was a global sickness, and it was called COVID. And there was a lockdown in April of 2020. I call it the Great Realization because during that time period, we were deemed essential in Florida to continue selling real estate. But a lot of things changed in life. The way we bought groceries, trying to go to the post office, we were all 6 feet apart. It was a different world back then. And during that time, I decided that I wanted to take the 20-acre farm that we live on in Ocala, just outside the city limit, and utilize it a lot more and enjoy it. Because up to that point, we had only had, 3 or 4 horses and a couple cats, and all we did was work, work, work. But during that time when we were at home a lot more, I decided to plant 4 box gardens. I decided to buy chickens and collect eggs, 6 chickens. And we purchased 2 cattle, a male and a female. So now we're up to 10 cows in our herd with 4 more on the way. And I decided to become a beekeeper. I have a mentor that helps me, and I went from 1 box of bees or 1 hive to now I have an apiary of 7. And I've learned so much from the bees. I wanted to share that with you and how it correlates with leadership. We actually extract honey from our beehives, and the highest amount I've gotten in one season has been 150 pounds of honey from my bees. And I don't sell the honey. We actually consume it as a family. And I give honey and a spreader from Cutco as a closing gift to all my clients. And they love the organic honey that I'm able to give them. They know that it was grown with love, and there's nothing, no sugar water or anything that's been added to it. So how does beekeeping, bees, and an apiary relate to leadership and the council? If I were to go back in time and give my younger self one piece of advice, it would be the title of our presentation. It wouldn't be to buy Google or buy Apple stock or any of that. It would be more philosophical, and it would to be bold, to be purposeful, to be grateful, and to be kind. So we're going to dive into why we would do that. So welcome to the hive. The hive represents the strength, the structure, and the unity of the Women's Council community. Every bee in the hive is female, each with a role that is vital to the success of the whole community. So what is the queen's role? The queen's purpose is to multiply life. The queen lays eggs, and she ensures that the next generation thrives. So with Women's Council, our president is to grow and nurture our members and our membership. The queen bee emits a special pheromone and a signal of harmony and safety that keeps the hive focused and balanced. So when the queen feels safe, she's telling the bees the different jobs that they need to do. When the queen feels unsafe or she feels like the hive or the network is threatened, she tells the colony to attack. When the hive senses danger, that pheromone changes. So as a leader, we've got to remember, is it we're looking to the future? Is there threats to our network, or are there challenges that we need to take care of? So what is the parallel to leadership with the hive? The leaders, like the queen, create calm, confidence, and direction through their presence and their purpose. The hive thrives under clear leadership, calm, confidence, and direction through their presence and purpose. So I was once lifting the lid off one of my hives, and I was stung by 4 bees. They attacked me, and then the entire hive became angry, and I had to slam the lid down. So when you are working with the bees, you're wearing a complete suit. You look like an alien from another planet. You cover your face. You wear thick gloves, because when a bee stings you, the bee is giving her life to protect the colony. So the stinger is left in you, the bee dies, and you start to have swelling from the bee sting. So I ended up having to go have a steroid shot at the doctor's office. And as you're stung more and more, you actually do not build up an immunity to it. You become more susceptible to the sting. So there is some dangers with the hive, but well worth it for the golden honey that we extract from the bees. So when we start out with our outline of being bold, we want to channel the queen's energy. The queen has courageous leadership, and boldness is about clarity of purpose. It's not about aggression. The queen never shouts her commands. Her energy unites the hive. In our network, what we focus on expands. We I think of back when I was in the NR Leadership Academy, and I know Susanna's on the call. She's been in Leadership Academy, and probably a few others of you have also. But I remember when we were in Leadership Academy, they had us do an exercise where we closed our eyes. Everybody in the room closed their eyes, and you imagined what your future looked like, starting with 5 years from now, you're stepping out of your bed, and what does the floor look like when your feet touch the floor, to what kind of car you drive, to what office you arrive at, to the duties that you're doing during the day. So in being bold, you want to focus, because what you focus on expands. And also, we talked about positive affirmations every day, and being bold to repeat those positive affirmations, write those positive affirmations down. And in our networks, be bold enough to lead. Make sure you speak up and you share ideas, and don't be afraid to raise your hand. So many times I would sit back and wait, but I've learned to be bold and raise my hand if I feel like I can contribute to the conversation or to the network. So the action thought about being bold is your influence can steady or can scatter the hive. You need to lead with intention. So the second topic today is being purposeful. Every bee has a mission. Purpose creates progress. Some bees gather nectar and pollen. Others tend to the queen and the brood, which is the eggs. Some clean and repair the hive, rebuilding the damaged comb, removing the debris, and preparing new cells for eggs, the royal jelly, and the honey. And others produce bee bread, which is the protein-rich food that nourishes the young bees. They're ensuring the next generation's health, and this is what we're doing within the council also. We are ensuring the growth of the council, our networks, and that we thrive. We nurture our members. We identify future leadership. And there's something that the bees do that I'm not sure if any of you know about, but it's called the waggle dance. I call it the wiggle dance. So this is all about purpose and communication. And I don't know if you know this, but there are scout bees within the hive that perform a wiggle dance when they fly out on a mission and they come back. They do this dance, and it's telling the other bees where the sources of water, where the sources of nectar, pollen, and nutrition are. They share information so the others can succeed, and it's a powerful lesson in collaboration and communication. So for the council, each member brings purpose. Some lead, some mentor, some create opportunities, some support the hive's foundation. Every aspect of service strengthens the network's legacy. So a lesson to learn in being purposeful, whether it's in the council, in our network, or in our own personal businesses, that when you're talking about the team, no role is too small. Every purpose contributes to the golden outcome. You don't have to wear the crown to be important. The hive or the network would collapse without the work of everyone, especially the workers. In our next section about being grateful, we want to savor the sweetness. All of our members bring time, talent, and treasure to the network, as well as in the hive. Everybody plays their part. Always have an attitude of gratitude, and I've always felt this way. There's a national past president of Women's Council, and some of you may know Gail Hartnett. She's somebody that I served under when I was in state leadership, and she's always, always, always grateful and always posting happy comments online. If you get a chance to check out Gail Hartnett out of Idaho, follow her on Facebook. She's an amazing lady and always has an attitude of gratitude. So in comparing the hive and the honeybees and the honey that the bees create sustains them through winter. It's the reward of consistent collective effort, just as in the council. And gratitude, like the honey, is the sweetness that sustains our organization through challenges. When we collect honey, me and our particular hive in our apiary, we don't ever feed our bees sugar water. Everything is organic, and we don't ever take all of the honey. The bees to sustain in the hive have to have enough honey and nourishment to last them through the winter time when they can't go out and fly. They don't fly when it's cold. They don't fly when it's rainy because it would kill them. So to put this in practice in the network and in the council, we recognize and honor the roles that others play, from the leaders to the quiet workers who keep the hive thriving. Gratitude transforms our effort into fulfillment. And if we reflect on that, when we thank and uplift one another, our hive grows stronger and our honey sweeter. The old saying, correct in private and compliment or praise in public, is what we need to follow, that golden rule. So how do we continue if bees live 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on the weather, and the queen lives 2 to 5 years? How do they create the next leader? How do they create the next queen? Or sometimes if she's died on a mating flight, or if she's just aged out, or perhaps the queen has done something that the rest of the hive feels is not in the best interest of the hive, they replace the queen. So the worker bees create their own queen, their own leader. Workers raise new queens by flooding the select larvae or the eggs with royal jelly. This rewires their bodies, matures their ovaries, and extends their life for years. Leadership in the hive is created through nurture, not birthright. When bees lose their queen, they transform ordinary larvae into a replacement by feeding them royal jelly. This new queen lives up to 20 times longer and keeps the hive alive, showing that true leadership is nurtured into being, not inherited. It's not just because it's their turn or because it's their legacy, it's because they are chosen to be the best leader of the hive or the network. The honey that the bees create sustains them through the winter. It's the reward for consistent collective effort. We recognize and honor the roles others play, from the leaders to the quiet workers. I am going to move on to the next section of being kind. To protect and nurture the hive, kindness as a force of strength. Some bees create royal jelly to nourish the new queen, ensuring leadership, continuity, and the hive's future. Others guard the hive, ready to defend with their lives, a testament to loyalty and unity. Even in death, bees show selflessness. Older bees often remain outside the hive to avoid burdening it and returning to nature peacefully. In leadership, be generous with your support. Offer grace when others stumble. Lift those around you, especially the next generation of leaders. True kindness preserves the hive. It is the glue that holds the colony and our council together. And I say this, and I've acknowledged Susanna on the call a couple times, and I've acknowledged Gail Hartnett. My greatest friends in life and in my career have been folks that I have met and learned to love in the council. Susanna Madden, Sharon Voss, Cynthia Schaefer, and Rosemary Mahoney. We just clicked the year. It wasn't even the year I was president. It was actually Sharon's year as president. And those ladies continue to give selflessly. So when I talk about being kind, it's not always how much you know, it's how you treat people, and they remember that. I'm not saying don't bring your A game as a leader and always be the most prepared person in the room, but it's how you treat others and the kindness that they remember as they continue on in their leadership journey as well as life. So I want to thank those ladies for being a part of my life. So the lesson is that true kindness preserves the hive. It's the glue that holds the colony and the council together. So at this point, I want to shift gears and let's talk about the beekeeper's role, the guidance and the stewardship, but the human connection. The beekeeper ensures the health of the hive, checking for disease, protecting against threats, and supporting balance within the hive. So for me as a beekeeper, I supply a water source for my bees in case there's a drought out in Mother Nature. I also plant pollinator type of plants for the bees, goldenrod and certain types of flowers that they like. Likewise, our mentors, our state leaders, and local presidents nurture the health of our networks. We also have the support from Women's Council on the national level, Florida Realtors, and the National Association of Realtors, because it is a shared responsibility. Success is a partnership between those who guide and those who act. Together we protect what's sacred, connection, growth, and community well-being. The golden honey, that's our shared reward. Honey, the honey, when we talk about the council, is our legacy. The golden honey symbolizes the collective success of a well-functioning hive or a well-functioning network. The sweet outcome of collaboration and care and shared purpose. Each drop represents a contribution or a conversation or a small act of kindness that strengthens our hive. So the closing message for honey is when we're bold in vision, purposeful in action, grateful in spirit, and kind in heart, we create a thriving hive that nourishes generations to come. Together, we're the keepers of something golden. We're the keepers of the flame. So to summarize my journey in leadership and how it correlates with the honeybee and to be bold and to be purposeful and to be grateful and to be kind. Be kind, utilize the queen's energy and leadership, lead calmly and confidently. Your energy sets the tone. Inspire others through presence. Be purposeful. Every bee has a mission. Every member has a mission. Every role matters. Gather, build, and protect. Communicate and collaborate. Don't forget the wiggle dance. Purpose drives growth and creates passion. Be grateful. Savor the sweetness. Gratitude sustains through challenge. Celebrate others' contributions. Appreciation builds abundance. And most importantly of all, be kind. Nurture and protect the network. empower the next generation, defend and uplift with compassion. Kindness keeps the hive or the network strong. And I'd like to close before we go into Q&A session with one of my favorite authors. I don't know if you could see this book because it's kind of hard to see with the fading of the frame, but it's Andy Andrews, and it's called The Butterfly Effect, another pollinator. How significant is my life? Do I make a difference? When I move, when I act, when I do something, does the universe even notice? Do I really matter? And I have to tell you about the butterfly effect. So in 1963, Edward Lorenz presented a hypothesis to the New York Academy of Science. His theory stated simply that a butterfly could flap its wings and set molecules of air in motion, which would move other molecules of air in turn, moving more molecules of air, eventually capable of starting a hurricane on the other side of the planet. Lorenz said his ideas were literally laughed out of the conference. What he had proposed was ridiculous. It was preposterous, but it was fascinating. Therefore, because of the idea's charm and intrigue, the so-called butterfly effect became a staple of science fiction, remaining for decades a combination of myth and legend spread by comic books and movies. So imagine the scientific community's shock and surprise when more than 30 years after the possibility was introduced, physics professors working from colleges and universities worldwide came to the conclusion that the butterfly effect was authentic, was accurate, and viable. Soon after, it was accorded the status of law. Science has shown the butterfly effect to engage with the first movement of any form of matter, including people. So I'll close with this quote by Andy Andrews, because each and every one of you, in whatever role you have within the council, local, state, or national, I compare it with the worker bees of the hive. Every single thing you do matters. You have been created as one of a kind. You have been created in order to make a difference. You have within you the power to change the world. Thank you, Kara.
Thank you so much, Sherri. I greatly appreciate that. And I never knew you did beekeeping, to be honest with you, and it shocked me. But the other thing is too, Sherri, one of my best friends is a beekeeper too, so I need to introduce you two together for sure, for
So
sure.
when you see me in the hallways, just say, hey, let's do the wiggle dance
Yeah,
together.
right. We can do that. We can dance for sure. So I'm going to let this time and this opportunity for anybody to ask any questions of Sherri. I know some of you were at Leadership Summit and she did a fantastic talk then too. And I actually bought the book that you recommended then.
Good, 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 good. I've
I
got a
haven't gotten
stack
to
of
read it
books.
yet. I haven't got to read to it yet, but I know I did buy it. It's in my queue over here to read for sure. So I know people have to have questions. Come on.
I know Susanna's online.
I have one.
Sure, go ahead.
It's not necessarily women's council related, but what do the bees hibernate when they're in Vermont and they're in upstate New York and they're in their little box for the winter?
So the bees spend a lot of their energy in the wintertime keeping the hive warm. You know, they use their wings, they flap their wings and they keep the queen warm, they keep the queen protected. They kind of hunker down during wintertime. I've not had bees in the snow, but I know they do have them in other areas. Most of the bees that I've seen are in California, Florida, but in the wintertime, they're out collecting the nectar and, you know, packing that hive as full of honey as possible. They're also multiplying the numbers of bees in the hive, because if the numbers dwindle, they can't protect themselves from, you know, any type of creatures that want to knock the hive over, or even beetles. Beetles get in the hive and they have to run the beetles out of the hive too. The moths are really bad on the bees. So they don't fly when it's raining, because of course it would knock them to the ground and kill them. And they don't fly when it's super cold, because they can't survive outside the hive. Great question.
Thank you.
I know Miss
And
Catherine.
you were awesome in Ocala, and I really loved all the metaphoric examples today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Catherine has a question. I see your hand raised. Go ahead, Catherine.
Well, it's sort of question, comment, but I think that's just a lot of food for thought. I mean, I thought I knew something about bees, but clearly not this much. And I did not know that they're predominantly women, but it doesn't surprise me,
They're the
you know?
workers. Yep. They run the
And
drones.
so,
They run the drones out of the hive. They only
yeah,
use them
so
for,
it,
for
it
one
doesn't
thing.
it doesn't surprise me at all. And like I've always said, behind every woman is another great woman. You know how they say behind every man is a great woman? Well, behind every great woman's another woman. And that hive and queen bee and all that is such a great metaphor for women's council
Mhm.
because that's what we all are, is working together to support each other, to support the next leader up, the next, we don't just have the queen bee, we have a lot of them at different levels. And I think, in this day and age of, we always hear value proposition, and we're worried about running around and making sure we have more education classes than anyone else and better. And all of that's great. But I think what we really have to sell is community.
Mhm.
And when you have the 4 pillars of Women's Council, education, leadership, networking, and referrals, one of those has to change to community because that's what it really is. That's the support and the mechanism that I think is the most valuable in the organization. And sometimes we more or less, I think, take it for granted than to showcase it, you know?
Most of the times, whenever I've gone to a regional conference or a national meeting, or whether it's Women's Council, Florida Realtors, NAR, I am touched most by stories. I love storytellers.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to, you might not care a thing about bees, but I can tell you that if they weren't on the planet, we would not survive, number one. So I'm a big advocate for the bees. But I wanted to paint a visual for you and a story today, because the colony is primarily all, female bees. There are no male bees in the hive. They actually run them out. And I love our guy members. I love my husband. I've been married 42 years almost. But the bees, the colony, really, I learned so much about them. If you get the chance, whether it's with a grandchild or maybe you just want to watch it yourself, there's a animated movie called The Bee Movie, and it talks a little bit about and shows you the life of a bee. It's just a fun little comedy, but I didn't know how important the bees were to the world, and how the metaphor of how they survive and how the colony thrives. And if the queen dies, or the queen is weak, the leader is weak or doesn't do her job, there's no direction for those bees. She's
Right.
giving them direction for each job that happens within the colony. And a thriving hive has great numbers. So it's about membership, it's about retention. There's a lot of things that we can address when we think of the bee colony. So I wanted to keep it short and sweet. And you've heard so many great things from the other speakers that you've had this year. And I know when I traveled as a state leader, I would show up completely prepared. I knew the data, the statistics about housing in that area. I was talking about the newest products that were out there, what we would provide, the value of our membership with the council. But what kept me within the council was those relationships, was that connection, was that feeling important. And always, always in speaking and traveling around the state, you want to lift somebody else up in the room. You want to look somebody in the eyes and say, I know there's another leader, there's another president, there's somebody in this room that has it within them if they'll just raise their hand and take that step forward. So the council is a very intimate environment to learn and grow and be the best version of yourself, as I said at the retreat, that you can possibly be, with the support and inspiration that they bring to you. And it's not about a women's club. It's not about squabbling about who's going to be the next leader, or who got what. It truly is about the team effort. And, that's why I continue to stay involved and continue to lift up those ladies that were a part of the leadership team when I came up the ranks in the council.
Well,
I know,
thank you.
I know you can't see me raise my hand, but I'm raising my hand.
Go ahead, Miss Madden. For sure.
Okay, I never did, just so you know, I never did get the link. So I texted Sherri and I told her, hey, I didn't get the link, but I want to be there. So she sent me her link. So I came in early and my name said Sherri Meadows since I used her link. So I was Sherri Meadows too. So I just renamed it Susanna, but it wouldn't let me do a video, wouldn't let me do my, my video of my face. So I came in just like this with no, with no video of myself. So that's why you don't see me. But anyway, I wanted to say a couple things. First of all, it's nice to find out that you have that age-old question, are leaders born or made? And now we learn from these, well, they're, it could be either one, they're born, but then they're made also. We see that, because, if you're not nice, they'll do their thing and dump you and then make you. So anyway, I wanted to say too that, well, let me talk about the book for a second. I read Butterfly Effect. I love Andy Andrews. And my favorite all-time book is, guess what? Traveler's Gift. And guess who it's by? Andy Andrews. And guess
There it is.
guess who gave it to me? Sherri, years ago. And I have given that book out to a number of people, and I love that book also. So I'm promoting that one. Now, let me just tell you something. Sherri and I, our whole team of people, we called it a dream team. And boy, was it. At one of our like little webinar things or classes we went to, the guy who was speaking, he was a pilot, and he talked about being a wingman. He talked about what a wingman is. And so it's the guy who's, looks behind you and he protects you to see who's back there to make sure you don't get hurt. And we all just looked up at each other and went, oh yeah, that's what we all are. We all watch each other's back to take care of each other because we were all so close and protecting each other. From that day forward, we called each other's wingman. Well, then we changed it. Instead of wingman, we started calling each other wingy. So, that's something that we believe in is watching each other's back. So we started getting together at parties, slumber parties, conventions. Now, I was president in 2006 and Sherri was in 2007. And we have been tight and close since then. And we still call each other wingy. And that's the way every team should be. No fighting, jealousy, whatever. And that's what I would like to see, for everybody to have each other's back like we did. That we were just the dream team, the wingies, the wingmen. I loved it. We loved it. We still love each other. We still get together.
I thank you for that, Susanna. What we also did to run very smooth meetings is we would maximize our strengths and minimize our weaknesses. We would help others. Susanna, you used to hate spreadsheets, didn't you?
I guess I did.
But she was amazing at parliamentary procedure. We'd sit up for hours helping other teammates that were weak at parliamentary procedure and have flawless meetings. I don't know that they were quite as flawless as this past August meeting. I tell you, this leadership team this year really ran an amazing meeting. But that's just what we did. We helped others, we lifted others up. And again, you want to correct in private and praise in public, always lifting your teammates up. For those of you who serve as presidents, as you travel next year, always lift up your president-elect. Let the membership know they're in for such a treat the next year after you, so that you're uplifting your team members. But again, Suzanne and I, we have each other's back, and we will for life, as well as our other team members. So thank you, Susanna.
And Sherri, guess who learned not to hate spreadsheets and budgets real fast, thanks to you and CJ and the others. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Sherri? How about this? I'll give you a question, Sherri. Besides the book of the butterfly effect and the traveler's got a gift, I believe it's correct. I hopefully said that right. The traveler's gift. What are some other favorite books about leadership that you read for sure?
Oh my goodness. So The Butterfly Effect by Andy Andrews, and anything Andy writes, especially The Traveler's Gift, that's the first book that I ever really, I was like an aha in leadership. And it was actually a national president of Women's Council, Deborah Battersby, that told me about The Traveler's Gift. It's life-changing if you really focus on what the book is saying. There's another book that's really old. You guys want to write this down. You might be able to find it online. It is not in publication anymore. And it's old-fashioned as can be, especially when they talk about dress code. But it gives you the pieces of how to play the game. So it's called Play Like a Man, Win Like a Woman, What Men Know About Success That Women Need to Learn. And it's written by Gail Evans. She actually ran CNN back in the day when CNN first was created. Play Like a Man, Win Like a Woman. It's a great paperback book. Of course, The Emeralds of Oz, that's by Peter Guzzardi. We talked about that at the Leadership Retreat. Another one of my favorite authors, this was really the aha for me, is a book called The Alchemist, Alchemist, and it's a Brazilian author named Paulo Coelho, Coelho. He is amazing. You can read his books there. Of course, there's some magic in them, there's some fantasy in them, but it is truly a leadership book. And I have a small one here, which is just a snippet of a few of his books called Life. But The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho it's one of the most sold books around the world. And I'm one to give books away. I have actually an Alchemist book that I gave to my daughter that ended up over in Europe, backpacking with a young person across Europe, reading The Alchemist, and it changed their life also. There's another one called Be More Unicorn, How to Find Your Inner Sparkle. I don't have an author on this, but it's called Be More Unicorn. And then the last one, which kind of goes along with what we've talked about today, it's called Be Kind, and it's actually a devotional, like a 1 week at a time type of thing by Melissa Burmester. And she's the founder of kindness.org. So it's called Be Kind. So those are just a few. Thank you for asking, Kara. I love books and give books away at every chance I can.
Does anybody else have any questions besides me for sure?
If not, they're going to get back to selling houses with the last few minutes of this hour. Oh, I see a hand up. Elena?
Hi there. Thank you again for sharing today and also your time at Summit in Ocala. It was definitely wonderful. It was my first summit for leadership, so I definitely get a lot out, which is wonderful, and I can bring back to the network to truly engage. As someone who's imparting or embarking on their first presidency, and there's a few others on the call that are president-elects for local networks like myself here. What is one nugget you'd like to give us from your experience?
Yes,
And,
that's a loaded
tenure?
question. Well, first it would
It
be the
is.
advice. First, it would be the advice that I said I would go back and give my younger self, to be bold, to be purposeful, but to be grateful and be kind also. With that said, I have been in real estate for 45 years, and I don't want to go to a meeting just to be going to a meeting. I want to get something out of that meeting. Like you said, even if it's just one nugget, and I'm still learning. AI is filling my brain right now after over 4 decades in the business. But I would say don't have a meeting that you don't have a purpose and you're not going to accomplish something, because time is precious. And I don't want to go to a meeting just to be at a meeting. I want to learn something that's either good for my business, good for my personal life, or maybe I am in the dumps and I need something inspirational, to hear an inspirational speaker. So maybe we have less of these small meetings and one big meeting with a great inspirational speaker within the network, because it's after you've heard everything, you want to have value in the meetings. And the main thing in your leadership journey is just to be authentic. Always be authentic. To me, every member is important, whether they have a badge on with a title and, you know, have a vote that I need, or whether it's somebody that can bring nothing to me. I think that everybody is just as important as the others. So be authentic and be kind to folks. I will tell you, some of the most momentous times in my leadership journey, 30 years volunteering at all three levels, what I have learned the most is from the maid who cleans my hotel room, the waiter in the restaurant, a homeless person that I met on the street. There's something that I've learned from them to keep me grounded, to always remember what my true north is, and to be grateful. So be prepared. You know, you heard this at retreat, the 6 Ps. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. Always be the most prepared person in the room. Even if it means I'm going to stay up till 2 o'clock at night, I am going to be prepared for the next day, because that's what your members deserve. That's what your worker bees deserve, and give them direction. And then again, I could send an outline to Kara on this, you know, these main points that we learned from the hive, to follow up, to appreciate people, to know that everybody has their job and their position, and each one of them are just as important. But be authentic and be prepared.
That's always such good advice, Sherri. You always are so inspirational to me, and I know you were so inspirational to everybody today in the Zoom link and at Leadership Summit. We greatly, greatly appreciate for your time today, Sherri.
Thank you so much. And if you need any business advice, I run a team here in Ocala, in the villages. Been very productive and very successful. So if you want to talk business world, I would be more than glad to do that too. I love to mentor to folks. You want to have coffee or just a Zoom call, Kara has my contact information. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I am super excited about next year and the leadership that's coming forward. And thanks for the opportunity today to be here. And Wingy, thank you for helping support me today.
Thank you guys for coming on today. And that is a wrap. And the recording will be available on our YouTube. So if you guys need anything or want to rehear Sherri talk, go ahead and log on. Thank you so much, Sherri, again. Greatly, greatly
Bye-bye.
appreciate it, you guys.